I appreciate each of the rule followers in here. There's many more that are talking. I know they're not eating because there was no cookies left when I walked out. And that can't be an excuse. This afternoon, in this last session, we have a couple of things we want to highlight. And I'm going to speak just for a few minutes on digital delivery. And then after that, we have Division 3 is going to share some updates on a project that they have really delivered in a timely manner. So that'll highlight a few other things that we'll be talking about tomorrow in our workshop. But as we look at digital delivery, digital transformation, open roads, OpenX, these terms continue to float around. I won't ask you to raise your hands because I don't want to peg you in a group, but for some of us, these are pretty exciting terms. Some of us are apathetic to them. Some of us are probably trying to ignore them, and then some of us are downright negative about them. I don't know, we wouldn't want to try to peg you by your age based on what your response would be. But as we talk about digital delivery, I want to spend the next 10 minutes communicating what digital delivery is for NCDOT, what our plan is, how we want to identify the challenges that we have, share what success looks like, and then hopefully conclude with a challenge for each of us. So that's what we're going to spend a few minutes on. So as we look at digital delivery, I want to get some input from you. And so the question, again, back to Slido, and this is very important. Tell me the first word, and the important part is in the parentheses, that can be professionally spoken, that comes to your mind when you think of digital delivery or ORD or OpenX. We're going to see a word bank here, so if you put something that you shouldn't, it's going to be visible. That's pretty good. Thank you for those responses. I think that probably covers the full spectrum of where each of us are right now. Some people are excited, some aren't, and some people struggle to see our path forward now. And so hopefully we can clarify some of that in the next few minutes. As we transition back, let me hop back. Generally, digital delivery, very general definition, is the use of digital data and technologies to help agencies build, maintain, and operate transportation projects. Very broad. Drilling down a little deeper, I did some looking on the internet, did some Google searching a few weeks ago, and I like the definition that Utah DOT uses. And their definition for digital delivery is the use of digital data in design, construction, and asset management. And then they continue with saying the purpose of digital delivery is to deliver data in more directly consumable formats that can be used in survey equipment, field applications, and for decision-making by downstream users. What I really like about this is it takes the focus of digital delivery and it doesn't necessarily focus on how we're using it, but on how the person who's downstream of us, our customer, is using it. And so as we struggle to understand or define what digital delivery is, maybe it's that we're not looking at it in the right way. Maybe we're seeing it only through the lens that we see through, instead of the person that is going to use the information that we're developing and providing. So that's a challenge for you. Focusing back on North Carolina DOT, my goal is that we better connect pre-construction, construction, and asset management and maintenance in a cohesive manner. As we move forward, pre-construction will develop a 3D model, and I'll say that we are wisely working toward that. It's not as quick as some people would like, but I'm hopeful that we're making wise decisions that contain the data in that model that's necessary for construction. Construction and contractors will ultimately utilize the model and the associated plan sheets to construct the project, and then intelligent digital as-builts will provide the information to asset management for decision-making and improved maintenance activities. That's what our goal is as we move forward. So looking at where we are now, I'll first state that NCDOT isn't where we need to be as it comes to digital delivery. We're not as far down this journey as we need to be, but we're going to get there. I have confidence in this. I understand that there's uncertainties that many people have, and there's a lot of challenges that are really coming to the surface as we're identifying projects that we're going to deliver in ORD and pre-construction. This transition isn't necessarily based on preference, but we're being driven to this based on the software changes. But I don't want us to just simply stop at that. I believe as we lay out a good roadmap, that we'll see the work that we do in pre-construction using ORD, using OpenX products, that I believe will become more efficient. It's not going to be immediate. We're going to have to work toward it, but I believe that we can really be more efficient, provide better quality plans, fewer conflicts in plans. So that's what I'm believing. I believe that that's something that we're going to see as we move forward. As we transition together, we're receiving great input from DOT staff and then also from consultant partners on the challenges that you're experiencing and problems that honestly we're solving together. So I know that this is going to continue. I want to mention a few key items that have been shared with me and actions that were taken. But first, I want to share a key action that the department has taken, and it's really to organize ourselves. And I think this has been a weakness that we've had over the past couple of years, is that we haven't had a leadership structure in place to look across the entire department. I've said this many times, but I think each of us in our particular units or in pre-construction, we do very well within what we have control over. But as it comes to something like digital delivery that touches all phases of a project, that's where we typically begin to struggle because we don't communicate as well. And so I'm hopeful that this structure is going to help us have an executive leadership to set a vision of where we want to be in 3 to 5 years. We have the business and technology lead teams, and then ultimately pre-construction, construction, and asset management groups to really define and to accomplish what we need to on an annual basis. Defining what we need to accomplish in the next 12 months is a focus for us right now. In pre-construction, we recognize that some tasks in ORD, they're just not as efficient as they are in V8I today. That's a reality. And so that's something that we have to recognize, but identify how we can make further enhancements. We're working with Bentley, with DIT to identify those things that we need to do. With this, there's been some project schedule impacts and cost implications. I've heard that pretty clear from the firm. So I would challenge NCDOT project managers and project managers with firms to have some honest conversations. Be truthful about what the challenges are. Work through these things together is something that I don't think anybody has a complete picture of the amount of effort it takes on a particular project, but have those conversations. For DOT's project managers, we need to be open to that. It's a reality, and there may need to be some type of adjustment to hours or compensation for this. Updates to versions of ORD and workspaces, they presented difficulties that we're experiencing. And so we're working closely with DIT to mitigate the impacts. And as we move forward, we're going to communicate more proactively and completely as things are changing in the software. That's an area that we've seen that we can improve. NCDOT needs to define the model expectations, such as accuracy, the detail by project type, for different projects and for major deliverables. That's something that's a focus of ours in the next few months. We know that is a challenge as projects are being scoped. How much effort, how much time is it going to take us to get to this type of deliverable, and what is the department expecting to see in that deliverable? So that's a focus of ours. And then ultimately, we need to evaluate NCDOT's workspaces, our templates, and adjust these if they're limiting the efficiency or effectiveness of ORD. That's something that I see this ORD as a generational change. And so we've got to rethink the way that we've delivered projects, especially in the pre-construction realm. As we look at construction, We need to introduce construction staff, and I say we, NCDOT, we need to introduce construction staff that ORD plans or plans developed by ORD, they may look different. We need to help them get comfortable with that. The training that may include for resident engineers, for CEI, for construction inspectors on using the plans, eventually a digital model, and then how do we use the data in these files for surveying, basic things like surveying, construction stakeout. These are the important things that we're focused on in this construction. And then ultimately defining the digital as-built expectations and how we're going to implement that as a department. As we look to asset management, we need to define the data, and we're going to define the data that we need for managing transportation assets and assessing the performance of maintenance. So a plan, reaching the end here, but our plan is really to develop that 3 to 5 year roadmap, and that's what that executive leadership group is going to be charged with. And then the pre-construction, construction, and asset management groups are charged with implementing that on a 12-month basis. What do we need to accomplish in the next 12 months? And we're going to see that we do that. Overall, we want to successfully deliver projects with 2D plans from a 3D model. That's our focus now, but it doesn't stop there. We also need to identify the challenges to contractors who may lack trust in the models that we're developing. And so that's a key focus that we need to have. I say that we're a few years away from discussing ceiling models and letting projects with limited plan sheets. That's something that we'll say it's a parking lot item. It's not a key focus right now. We want to effectively deliver what we're delivering now before we begin to talk about what the future needs to look like in that regard. We want to do it wisely. So how can we know if we've been successful? First, and I think this is a key mark, is our contractors using the model that we're developing? And let's just start very basically. Are they using the grading model that we're providing? If they're not, we haven't yet been successful. We've got to start with that. We've got to get that input from construction so that we know from pre-construction perspective what we need to be doing. Are we realizing efficiencies as we work as a multidisciplinary team? Are we coming together? Are we recognizing those difficulties with design and working together? That's a strength that ORD, the OpenX, has. Are we leveraging that? Are we using these OpenX products? Are we using ORD to improve our quantities that then help our estimating practices? Just think of the possibilities, and I'm dreaming somewhat here, but think as we're connected digitally, how we may be able to develop designs, quantities, estimates, and how we may be able to keep these things accurate as we move forward. I think some real possibilities. Consistent digital as-builts and ensuring that the data that we provide the NCDOT asset management is what they need. So what can each of you do? What can each of us do? We need to be open to things looking different. There's going to be some things that appear to be different, and as I mentioned, this is a generational shift. We need to be aware of this. Secondly, we need to be willing to challenge the norms of the environments in which we've worked. What processes do we need to change and modernize to leverage the full potential of this software? Thirdly, we need to come together to envision the way that transportation projects will be delivered in the coming generation and allow the challenges to bring us together. Right now, I think we've had some difficulties that are kind of splintering us, and we don't want that to continue. And finally, continue to share the challenges that you're having with NCDOT disciplines, with the CAD support group, and the digital delivery team so we can resolve these things together as an industry. Digital delivery, I've said this, it's not a passion of mine. There's some things that I'm very passionate about. This is not one of them, but it is one of my priorities. It needs to be one of the priorities for technical services for the department. I would put it closely, very close to the number one priority, which is project delivery. This takes a very close second. And this is going to be a focus of ours over the next 3 to 5 years as we look to ensure that we're looking farther into the future than maybe what we have in the past. I wanted to share that with you. You can hold your applause. I have one more topic that I want to introduce to you. And Derek Weaver asked me just to share a couple of things with you. So, of course, the Project Delivery Network, what would a general session be without talking about the PDN? But Derek has been leading a group, and many of you in here have been involved, is really to make some refinements to the project delivery network. What you're seeing here is an updated network diagram, and I want to mention a few key things that the PDN is being updated with. What you'll see is that I hope you see that this is going to fit your eye better with the way that we deliver projects. The PDN has been used for several years, and we've found that in some cases we've over streamlined some things. We've missed some key items, checkpoints that we need to come together, especially as multidisciplinary teams, and really look at together. In other cases, we've found some further refinements that we can make, where we probably have lost some time and have some difficulties, maybe some duplication. So this is a major update, but the overall layout really is the same. It still has 4 stages, but if you notice, stage 2 is being renamed to environmental and right-of-way plans. The stage 3 is being renamed to final plans. As you see some of those distinct milestones, we've tried to build in some of the major milestones that NCDOT uses into the PDN. That was always something that it didn't fit my eye. As we're going through a project, I'm not seeing some of those key milestones that a project manager is honing in on, where you're having the environmental document complete, where you're having the right-of-way plans complete. You're going to see that in this network diagram. I also see how particular places where we have to stop and not stop, but we have to pause, gather those quantities, develop that estimate to be able to move forward. So you see more of an estimating focus in the network diagram. Also a project manager box that's included in each stage here. The disciplines are doing a final review of this, and we're finalizing things for the PDN, for the graphic. As we move forward, in just a few days, we're going to be posting this, and then we're turning our attention to updating the MS project schedule. What I'll say with that is that we're going to provide a more robust MS project schedule template. It'll be easier for you to pull out some of those particular items that aren't needed, rather than you having to build them in each time. So that's a focus of ours. You see the date there. We're working toward the end of the month on that. And then updating the scope generator in a similar way. There's going to be a lot of scope information in there, so rather than having to run the scope generator, it'll be easier just to cut out or cross through the information that you don't need as you're scoping the individual project. And then finally, scheduling the lunch and learns for November to hopefully provide more detail and be able to answer more questions that people have. I am excited about our next group of speakers. Division 3 is going to be highlighting a project for us, and the reason that I specifically asked that they be able to share this project with you is it was one of the first projects that, as it was scoped, they used the PDN, the MS project schedule, really some of the tools that have been developed over the last few years, and so I want them to be able to share what worked and maybe have some things that they have offered some refinements on. But Ms. Katie Hite, Mr. Jamie Bird are going to be sharing that with us, so welcome them, please.
Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, good. I don't want to yell at you. All right, so it's so great to see everybody out here. There's a lot of familiar faces, a lot of faces I've seen all throughout my whole career, so it's really great to see all of y'all. My name's Katie Hite. If you don't know me, I'm Project Development Engineer for Division 3, and with me today is Jamie Bird from HNTB. Am I supposed to use this? Okay. All right. So today, Jamie and I will share our successes in using various project delivery tools on an urban widening project in Wilmington, Gordon Road. Let's start off with an overview of the project. This project was the first in Division 3 to be developed using the PDN MS project, similarly to what Matt had said. It is a division design Raleigh-Lett DDRL. It was designed by HNTB and managed by the division staff. As you can see, we had key personnel and PEFs on our design team. Note this was a team effort, and without having the team working together, it could not have been successful. So the schedule kind of got started off in an unusual way. So it was picked up in funding in P 5.0. It also had bond funding with it. We scoped it early in April 19, and then in August 19, it went on hold, just like many other projects across the state. And so this project was on hold for a while, but because of the requirements needed for the bond money to be spent by a certain time, we were given the opportunity to go ahead and reinitiate the project. So we reinitiated the project, we rescoped it in May of 20, and then got it started. Like I said, we scoped it with using the PDN and MS project as our scheduling tool. And I'm happy to say that we met our deadline for right-of-way, which was June of 22, and since then it's been turned in and we'll let later this year. So with the help of our team and the use of these tools, we were able to have this success. A little bit more about Gordon Road. So it's a typical 2-lane road with residential developments and driveways. The project length is roughly 2.5 miles, and ADT is between 27,000 and 28,000 today. So we proposed a 4-lane divided typical section with a 17.5-foot median, which is narrower than we prefer. We usually use a 23-foot, but we knew that by going ahead and lowering it to 17.5, that we would reduce those impacts during right-of-way and reduce the construction cost. We've also included a multi-use path, a sidewalk, as well as crosswalks at signalized intersections. There are U-turns that are also included at strategic locations that benefit the corridor and businesses. So one tool, and you can push play. Yep. I'll just talk while you're watching this. So one tool that proved to be extremely helpful for us was our visualization. Our public involvement took place during COVID-19 pandemic, so we had no face-to-face public involvement. And so this tool helped us to be able to explain and show the public what the impacts were going to be without having to do that face-to-face. It's also a state on the website, on the project website, so it's a resource we've used throughout the whole life of the project. So as you can see, you see the existing, and then the proposed is overlaid on top. And so we call this like a fly-through. And so you see what those impacts look like. Stops at all the major intersections, so you can kind of understand and digest what those intersections are going to do and how they're going to operate. So one thing you may notice is that we're only showing a multi-use path on this visualization. And that was one thing that came out of the public involvement that was pretty successful, I would say. We had an overwhelming amount of desire for facilities on both sides of the road. So we added the sidewalk on the other side of the road and then crosswalks at those signalized intersections so that pedestrians could access both sides of the road. There is residential on both sides of the road. So it was great comments that we got back from the public, and it definitely proved to be successful. And other thing I'll note, as changes were made to the plans, we did not update this visualization. It would have been a lot of effort to do that. So this stays true to what the public meeting map looked like at the time. And so the public meeting map and this match. That's good. Thank you. It's the end of the project. Okay. So keys to success. So not only did we have a great design team, we had a great group of stakeholders. That's one thing that Division 3 has always really strived to look for and make sure that we involve in our projects. We always include our MPOs, our municipalities, and our counties. If we have any large developers or any activist groups, for this one, we communicated a lot between our bike and pedestrian groups that are local, made sure that their needs were heard, and we tried to make sure we accommodated what we could for them. As far as developers go, we had one track, this pretty large track, has a lot of frontage, that we worked with them. It turned out that they ended up working out an agreement with the county, and a fire station is going to be built. So the work that needed to happen for that development driveway is being included with our project with an agreement, and makes it much more efficient, if you will, for the traveling public, and they're not impacted as much because it all gets done at once. So we had, much coordination with those stakeholders. We held all of our basic review meetings that we would have. We included them. We also had monthly meetings with the teams that were working on right-of-way and utilities. Jamie's going to talk a little bit more about that and when he comes up here. As far as the PDN and the MS project, they were also very important to the success. Early detection of right-of-way and utility impacts was important. One thing not noted on here, but was definitely important for us, was investigations for septic fields and making sure that they were identified so that we could understand what those impacts were going to be early on. So, and last but not least, our bonus round here. We weren't asked to speak about this, but we felt like it was important enough for us to at least bring it to everybody's attention. We used a GIS tracking tool while we were in the right-of-way phase. It helped us to really see the picture of how right-of-way acquisition was going, and that was updated monthly, I think it was, with Report B. And Jamie will talk about that a little bit more too. So I think we're ready for our first question, our first Slido question. How often are you using the Project Delivery Network, the PDN? Be honest. Is it all projects, most projects, some projects, or none? Do we not have that on there? Okay. Sorry. Gave y'all a head start. I think he's going to do that. Jamie's coming up next.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you, everybody. I want to start off by reinforcing the first, which one is it? Reinforce the need for early engagement of the project team across all disciplines. On the previous slide, Katie talked about the coordination on this project. Some of the teaming partners are here in this room today, and they probably know what I'm about to say. We had monthly project team meetings with the design team. We had monthly utility meetings with the utility owners. The utility coordinator and utility designer were on the monthly project team meetings as well as the utility meetings. And we also, in addition, and most of the meetings were virtual, obviously, but we also had several utility meetings that were in-person utility meetings with the utility owners there in Division 3, where I will admit the majority of the utility owners did come and participate in those meetings, and it was very helpful in developing the project schedule for the project, because in those meetings, we talked to them about what they foresaw as their utility relocation times. And we used that information that they provided to us to build our MS project schedule. The MS project schedule, everybody that was involved with the project had input on the project schedule. We did that to get people to buy into it. If you just give them a schedule and say, here it is, they're less likely to buy into it. If you engage them and they know they've got input and that date was something that they arrived at, the hope was you would get more buy-in from them. And I believe it worked. I believe it helped. It also let us identify the critical items in project delivery. Katie touched on septic sites, because there was a lot of residential along the project corridor. There were a lot of septic systems, and normally that's not something that would get brought into the project until the right-of-way phase, because it's usually the right-of-way firm who's out there contacting the property owners, asking where the septic fields are and trying to gather that information. We pulled that task way back in the schedule and did it early, so that when we were starting our designs, we had a good idea of where the septic systems were already, so that we could try to avoid them. We also had an AT&T slick site on the project, and we also, the majority of the Duke overhead was running on one side of the road, so our design was focused to hold the northern side of the project and widen to the south. And that's also where the large tract of land that Katie mentioned earlier, undeveloped land, we went across that track with the majority of the widening. One of the things I want to be perfectly clear on is we used the PDN to the extent that we could, but we realized it was a framework. These are not rules and regulations. It's not a cookbook. It's not a recipe. You have to take what you need for your specific project and build on it from that. And I believe, Matt mentioned earlier that the PDN is getting reworked, and hopefully the updated version of the PDN will reflect some of those changes. The other thing with the project team that is probably most important is it eliminated the silo approach that most of us have been accustomed to in the past. And it brought everybody into the project process, and I think that was part of the success of the project. Stage 1, essentially express design, pretty much the same as what we always kind of knew as a 15 or 25% design, where we did line and grade. It's got a name now, and we use that, and the one thing that it let us do is it let us move into stage 2 with line and grade for the project. It had been submitted to Division sent it out to all the stakeholders that they've got, and we had buy-in on that alignment and that profile before we started our actual design work for the DRPS. Stage 2 alignment defined. Again, we touched on, the public involvement. Katie touched on that, and you guys saw the visualization. That was very helpful for the public to see. That way they knew what the project was going to look like or what the project was supposed to look like. It did raise a lot of questions. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw as the fly-through moved through the project, houses went away. Mobile homes went away. And unfortunately, they had to for the project to move forward. And that's hard for a property owner to see their house or their business get impacted by a project, but it didn't leave much to the imagination of what the project is going to be like when it's finished. Lesson learned, early identification of the critical design elements. I touched on that, the septic systems, the slick site, and the Duke overhead. Stage 3, plan in hand, right-of-way plans and permit application. I will say one of the things that I feel like was, am I not on the right slide? Yeah, sorry. Thank you. We talked to Division 3, and we got a cost plus PO to partner with our lump sum PO. The main PO was obviously a lump sum PO for things that we could scope and define. But as the revisions, whether they be a right-of-way revision, a developer wants a driveway here or somewhere else, we got a cost plus PO to run in conjunction with the lump sum PO. And I really feel like that was one of the things that made this project so successful, because we didn't have to stop, do a scope, submit a fee estimate, get a comp fee estimate, and then negotiate. We agreed to an amount for this cost plus PO, and then as issues came up during the project, whether it be New Hanover County wanted to add a multi-use path along North College Road, we handled that with our cost plus PO. The developers of the Ventures Tract wanted to extend Harris Road, put in turn lanes, and get infrastructure in for their future development. We did that as part of this cost plus PO. Don't think it's an open checkbook that we could do anything, because it was not. Every time we used it, we had to submit a bullet scope and a staffing estimate for the division to approve. Sometimes there was discussion, sometimes there was not. And from an accounting standpoint, we set up separate lines in our budget, in our system, so that all of these changes could be tracked separately. So I really feel like that was, very useful. The other thing that the Division 7 folks touched on earlier, the risk and the delay due to third-party reviews and approvals and complicated right-of-way acquisition. We cannot control the utility companies. We cannot make them review our plans and give us comments in a timely fashion. We tried. We were not successful. Some are better than others. Some are fairly responsive. Some are just not. So we have to take that into account when we're updating the schedule. And we do the best we can, but everybody needs to understand that those things are out of our control. Just like you try to negotiate with a property owner, they act like they want to negotiate, and then ends up going to condemnation. So this project was done in phases, where we did phase 1, then phase 2, so that we could get the utilities started early. If we had a phase 1 parcel that had to go to condemnation, Duke was not willing to work on rights of entry on this project, except in a very few locations. So those are things that are outside of our control, and we had to pivot and make adjustments to the schedule as we encountered those things. Stage 4, key deliverables, final plans, actual permits. This project had a FEMA stream, so we had to get a state floodplain compliance. Certifications from right-of-way and utilities. Thankfully, we did not have rail on this project. Quantities and specifications. Lessons learned. This one's pretty painful for me, but I think it needs to, I'll own it because I have to. Don't submit an incomplete package, PS&E package to plans checking. It will not go well for you. It just won't. And, we did that to try to make a deliverable date. It was a bad decision, and I own that. Unfortunately, the project still hasn't advertised yet. It was supposed to advertise in June. It still hasn't advertised yet. Not really because of this. We've got some utilities on the project that they haven't moved yet. And I'm not going to point them out, but I mean, we've all encountered them. We know that, and we deal with that as we can. We're in coordination with those folks to try to move those forward, but we can only do so much. Again, we don't have the scan code on here for the Slido question, but there are different types of scheduling software. We use MS Project, but there's also Primavera, Excel, or No Schedule. I hope nobody is in here doing No Schedule. So since we don't have the scan code, we can't do the Slido question, right, Matt? All right, moving on.
They get a free pass.
Yeah, you get a free pass on that one. We did do an MS Project schedule. It was very detailed. I looked this morning in the office, and it has 349 lines on it. It has all the logic in the schedule. Matt mentioned that there will be a new MS Project schedule template coming out. We've been assisting PMU on developing that MS Project schedule and providing the base logic for that schedule. Just know that you're still going to have to go in and modify the logic for your project. It's not going to be just put a few dates in there and it populates everything out. What we do with our schedules is we take what's in SAP is the critical dates. We put those in, and then we build other parts of the schedule around that. We also work with the department, whether it be the individual units, to get a reasonable review time frame. We would like to think that everybody can get the reviews done in 10 days. It's just not real. So there's no need to build a schedule around review times that are not achievable. So, and we updated the project schedule, not monthly. We probably did, but not major updates. But whenever the PDN changed, we updated the MS Project schedule to make sure that we were staying in alignment with the PDN. And obviously, we reviewed that during our monthly project status meetings and looked at the critical path and made sure that if somebody had one of the disciplines, whether it be on the design side or the department side, had deliverable dates or submittals coming up, that those were highlighted so that they knew that was coming. Here is just a screen grab of the MS Project schedule. I know you can't read it. This is really the best we could do. Anybody that needs to see the schedule, we can reach out to me or Katie. We can make the schedule available to you so that you can see it and see what the logic is, or you can wait until the new MS Project schedule comes out with the new PDN and get it that way. The one thing Katie mentioned, and the GIS tracking tool is something that we found very beneficial during our monthly project status meetings. This was a tool that was developed by Division 3 for the Hampstead Bypass project. I know that other firms and other divisions are using similar tools, but this tool is particularly helpful. It is coordinated through DOT. DOT is the host for the tool, and you can see that the dashboards are there, and we can isolate different parts of the project, whether it be the right-of-way acquisition side, where what status that a particular parcel is, whether that parcel has utilities on it, whether it has septic systems, and we also, you heard Division 7 talk about priority parcels. Priority parcels were identified. That way our right-of-way partner, who happened to be Carolina Land Acquisitions on this project, could focus their efforts on those particular parcels, which we found to be very successful on this project. Katie mentioned this was updated monthly. Carolina Land provided Report B to us. It was updated, from the Report B. There have been some discussions about trying to update it live time using the smart sheet. We're not there yet. It might be something in the future that we get to, but not yet. Here's the contact information for Katie and myself. And we thank you for your attention. And, I'll take any questions if anybody has a question.
Jamie, we actually have a few questions in queue
Okay.
here.
Good.
First question, with changes in scope for Gordon Road, did you go back to the public for updated information or just handle with comment responses?
We handle them with comment responses.
A couple of questions related to septic. How were septic properties identified, such as health department records, or did a soil scientist do a phase 1 investigation to confirm locations?
Well, the first thing we did is, we're in New Hanover County, so we contacted the CFPUA to obtain all of the mapping the GIS mapping they had for the area. If they had our final surveys also showed water and sewer, so we knew where water and sewer services were. If we encountered parcels that didn't have a water service or a water line in the facility, it was a pretty good indication that they're probably on a well, and if they're on a well, they're probably on septic. So, from that, we took that information, again, using Carolina Land, our right-of-way partner on the project. They contacted a soil scientist, and the soil scientist went out and identified the septic lines in the field based on, county records. If most of you have probably seen them, they look like they were drawn on a napkin. We had a lot of those, but that was the best information we had. So the soil scientist took that, went out to the property owner, tried to find out if the property owner knew where their septic systems were. The majority of them did not. Most of the properties on this project that had septic systems were rental properties. They weren't single-family houses. They pin flagged them, and then we had we coordinated with location and surveys so that when the soil scientist was out there, within a few days of them pin flagging, they were out updating the surveys and updated the FS file to show those.
Very good. Next question, what is a slick site?
For AT&T, Jim, are you here? Jim's not here. It's an AT&T site. It's like it's a transfer site. Maybe where's Keith Gary at? Yep. They actually own this whole parcel, and they had a dwelling sitting on it. So basically, from what we were told, about 2 years and $2 million to move. So, yeah.
Very good. Last question. Does your project have any noise walls, historic structures, any merger coordination issues?
It was not a merger project. We did do a TNR for the project, and noise walls or noise abatement was evaluated. Several locations were identified for walls. Those were provided to the division, and the division made the decision not to incorporate those walls because they were very isolated and would only protect small areas. And also, if anybody's ever been on Gordon Road between 40 and Market Street, there are a lot of driveways there. So,
very good. Another question just came in, Jamie.
Sure.
Were areas identified for stormwater treatment or additional right-of-way needs?
The project itself, since it is a curb and gutter project, does not have a great deal of stormwater treatment on it. We coordinated that with the division and also the DEQ, and the premise behind the design was it's a linear project with development on both sides of the road. The department really didn't want to have any, systems that, required extensive maintenance like sand filters within the right-of-way. So the project was permitted as designed with no stormwater management facilities.
Thank you, Jamie. That's all the questions we have for now.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Katie and Jamie. A great project to highlight, and I appreciate you doing so. In the last few minutes that we have today, before our reception, I wanted to do something that we haven't done before in the past at a pre-construction workshop. I know last year and then this year as well, we're speaking quite a bit about quality. And so we want to recognize 4 projects that have been submitted with the PS&E package of extremely high quality. We'll recognize the project and some key team members. I know that the individuals that have come up don't represent the entire project team, but these are some of a few of the key discipline leads on these projects. And so I want to highlight this, and then I'll share a couple of concluding remarks, and then we'll go spend a couple of hours together at reception. But I first want to recognize the U5805 project as a Division 10 project, and I'm going to call individuals up for Division 10. Yanni, he's the project manager, and then even before him was Donald Griffith. I know he was a project manager prior to it being transitioned. Yanni, y'all come on up. And this project, Division 10 had contracted with Mead and Hunt to deliver this project. So project manager from Mead and Hunt was Rick Nicola. And with other team members, Jack Hobson, Jennifer Smith Morton, Brad Smith. So if y'all will come up. What we want to provide to them is a coin, technical services coin. We want to present this to them to recognize them for this high quality project. And as you see there, 3 of the key words that technical services focuses on is, it forms the acronym of ACT: accountability, communication, and teamwork. And, to deliver a project of high quality, it certainly requires this. So thanks to each of you. I needed my beautiful assistant, Derek Weaver, up here. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. The next project we want to highlight is actually 2 projects. And both of these are projects in Division 11. Both are managed by Ramey Shaw. He's not with us today. Of course, I focused on storm response. But both of these were delivered on behalf of Division 11 by TGS. And so Jimmy Terry, Ben Henniger, and Clint Pruitt are here. If y'all will come up, I want to recognize you for U5809 and U6036. Oh, Heath is he's representing Ramey. Thank you, Heath. That both the, one thing I'll mention on these is contract standards share that both of these projects were turned in 100% complete, which is very challenging to do, not to have any comments. So thank you for that, guys. We have a couple of projects here that were developed internally. The first I want to recognize is BR0093. It's a project that Sarah Sherman led. Sarah, come on up. And this is another unique project. I know it was began by Structures, and Christy Alford began managing this project and was the lead structural. And then also Han is here with us as well, so I want to provide these to each of them. Thank y'all. And then finally, another bridge replacement project, BR 95. And this is a project in a similar case. Christy, I like you, but I'm not giving you 2 coins. She was on this team as well. But this project, as it was led by Rochelle Beauregard. It began as a structures managed project. Christy was involved, and she continued to be involved in that through as a structures lead, and then Sherry Calhoun as roadway. Rochelle's here. She's in the back. But Rochelle, thank you for what you did on this. I want to wrap up just with a couple of comments. One thing that I'll share, and John Jameson and Federal Highways did a great job bringing some key things back to our minds on federal CEs. But a challenge I have for each of you as DOT project managers, the projects that we're delivering, if you're trying to determine if you need to do a federal or state document, the answer is federal. It provides us many opportunities with funding. I know there's some unique things, and there's some reasons not to do a federal document, but we really need to have justification if we're choosing to do a state document over a federal document. So we'll talk more about that in project manager meetings, but I wanted to make sure that was said today. Tomorrow we have some great sessions. I hope you'll take a look at the agenda that's up. I really think it's probably the best lineup of breakout sessions that we've had at a pre-construction workshop. I thank you for being here today. I hope there's something that you're taking away with you that you've picked up or been at least reminded of today. I thank you again for our sponsors that are here. If it wasn't for them, we would not have the next couple of hours to be together in reception. So thank you for them, and thank them when you see individuals that are employed by these companies. We're going to transition over. We have a QR code. Again, I know many of you, well, some of you may have missed this at the beginning. We're leaving this up. There'll be some signs at the back. If you need to scan this code for your PDHs, please do so. Tomorrow we begin at 7:30. 7:30 to 8:30 we have a continental breakfast. Some people are turning their nose up. You don't have to be here. I'm going to be here to eat. Yeah. So for those people turning their nose up, most of you are not DOT employees. You don't recognize how rare it is we get fed and don't have to pay for it. So we're going to be here to eat, and hopefully we're having a lot of sausage and bacon. But that's tomorrow from 7:30 to 8:30, and then our sessions begin at 8:30. Looking forward to seeing y'all at reception. It's in room 2 where we had our snack at earlier today. But thank you for the time today.